Introduction. The World War is over. The regional fascist empires of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan have been conquered. From the ashes of war arise two massive global spending empires, the winners. They even help one another win this world war. Alas, all good things must come to an end, and like archetypical brothers, conflict seems inevitable. Cain and Abel. While the First Cold War never resulted in a direct confrontation between superpowers, there were numerous proxy wars, covert military operations, spy operations, influence operations, open and discreet propaganda perpetrated by both sides. While the United States' current Cold War with China has only been widely known for the past 2 years, it started years prior. We can be hopeful this Cold War doesn't turn hot, sees limited proxy conflicts in the developing world. An unexpected, lesser-known aspect of the 21st century are the many Cold Wars between medium-sized powers that fund very active conflicts in places such as Africa. We'll get to that later. Body and argument. A parallel I see between the First Cold War and the Second Cold War, which I'll be referring to these events as larger events, is the Truman Doctrine in 1947 and Obama and Hillary Clinton's pivot to Asia in 2011. The Truman Doctrine was a declaration and an intention to confront and contain the Soviet Union. Hillary Clinton gave a speech at the East Asian Conference in 2011 in which she signaled America's focus and pivot of military power and economic power to Asia, and to strengthen alliances with allies such as Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines in order to contain China. And another significant event of the First Cold War is the Berlin Airlift, which lasted from 1948 to 1949. The Soviets very bluntly showed their intention to dominate Eastern Europe through their blockade of Berlin. This was countered by America and its willingness to contain Soviet expansion through an airlift of supplies into Berlin, the city. This was an obvious show of power by the American military and its large-scale logistical capability. Another parallel between the First and Second Cold Wars is the Korean War, which lasted from 1950 to 53, and Ukraine War, which started in 2022 and is ongoing. Truman's loss in China, which he was heavily criticized for at the time, in 1949 Chinese Civil War led to him not wanting to lose another country to communism in Southeast Asia. This parallels America's chaotic withdrawal of Afghanistan and the collapse and replacement of the regime it backed by the Taliban. This blow to America's credibility and prestige led to it more forcefully backing Ukraine in the Russian invasion of the country. The Korean War was the hottest active war of the Cold War, and nuclear weapons could have conceivably been used as nuclear weapons were still small enough in number and power to make their use reasonable, as well as the United States at this time in history, in 1950s, still had far more nuclear warheads than the Soviet Union. The United States had hundreds of warheads, while the Soviet Union had a single-digit number. Another parallel I see is the nuclear bomb testing between the two countries in the First Cold War and the space race. This parallels nicely the AI race we see in the current day. The use of the nuclear bomb on Japan and the Soviet Union, spy infiltration, and stealing of nuclear secrets from the Manhattan Project initiated a nuclear weapon buildup between both countries. This gave us the hydrogen bomb, which is 1,000 times more powerful than a nuclear device in the 1950s. This came along with the H-bomb test competition which lasted until the 1962 Test Ban Treaty. The superpowers haven't tested an above-ground nuclear weapon ever since. The space program began in 1955 when first the Soviets and soon after the Americans made their intentions clear of launching satellites into orbit. The space race ended with a joint American-Soviet Soyuz mission. This mission showed cooperation, and it showed a detente in the ending of the space race. This tracks with the introduction of ChatGPT in 2022 and the surprisingly capable release of China's DeepSeek R1 in 2025. An important aspect of this comparison is America introduces a transformative technology, and our peer adversary catches that technology very quickly. The nuclear bomb was introduced in 1945, and the Soviets tested their own bomb just 4 years later. America's OpenAI releases ChatGPT LLM in 2022, and China releases its cost-competitive model just 3 years later. History may not repeat, but it does rhyme. And now we'll get to some differences we see between the First and Second Cold Wars. The first is economic integration. America and China are economically integrated in a way the Soviet Union and America never were. A big portion of American manufacturing takes place in China. China holds lots of US dollar and US dollar denominated assets as a result. Another difference is the lesser amounts of proxy wars funded by both sides. While the Soviet Union and America had numerous proxy wars all around the world, America and China only have one so far. This represents the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Instead of proxy wars, the two sides have engaged in trade war on and off. Indeed, the United States has been attempting under Joe Biden and now Donald Trump to initiate a computer chip and economic blockade on China. Another difference between these two Cold Wars are the middle power proxy wars. While this Cold War is seeing much less proxy conflict between the main superpowers, this does not mean there aren't any proxy conflict. In this Cold War, we see proxy conflicts being funded by middle powers. A perfect example of this is the conflict in Sudan. The RSF, Rapid Support Forces, and government forces. While Turkey arms and funds the government forces, the United Arab Emirates arms and funds Rapid Support Forces. The combination of the backers being middle powers and the country in question being on the African continent means almost no one is paying attention to this war. If you have time, I'd recommend look into the Sudan conflict. It is much less covered. Now we get to the conclusion. While not many are calling the feud between the United States and China Cold War II, I think future history books will refer to it as such. This is due to the striking similarities with the Cold War of the 20th century. While the first Cold War lasted 40 years, I believe this one could last less than 20. The shorter time span is for one big reason. Both America and China are facing significant economic constraints. The debt GDP of the United States is around 124%, while China's is around 130%. 287% when including corporate and household debt. One of the country's economies will collapse within the next 10 years as they are both in an unsustainable spending path at the moment, or China will decide to blockade and invade Taiwan before this happens. Just in this example for the first Cold War, the debt to GDP ratio of the United States fell most of the Cold War. It didn't rise. It was 117% right after World War II, in 1945 and fell to 55% by 1990. All we can do now is pray these two peer rivals don't end up in a direct conflict, and like in the first Cold War, that the United States use of economic containment does not lead to a world war or conflict between these two powers.